Hi, welcome to another session of the Clarion Call. Thank you for joining us today. I am Jen Snyder, and today I have Jessica Rueger, self-mastery coach, with me. Welcome, Jess.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jen.
Hi, so good to see you again. So we are continuing the wonderful self-mastery conversation with a topic that I think that probably most people will really resonate with. We are talking about messaging, and whether you are a single individual, if you're in a relationship, or especially if you have children, you probably have some sort of an opinion on messaging that comes through the telephone, the television, the social media, in all the different ways that manufacturers and movements are vying for our attention and our endorsement, whether it be with money or just consent. So today we are really going to dive into this idea of messaging, which Jessica and I have had this wonderful conversation about how messaging will convince us to do something that perhaps we may not do if left to our own devices. And I want to begin the conversation with a really wonderful quote from Sasha Stone, who is one of my favorites. And he says, "Be aware of the conjuring trick that invites you out of your true nature." So with that, Jess, I would like to turn it over to you just to give, from a self-mastery perspective, I would like for you to give us some thoughts on what it means to stay in our power, in our truth, as we make very important decisions about our health, our environment, what we choose to buy, what we choose to buy into, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So it's really about, what we're giving our energy to. And our energy is sacred. It's our energy. And I think it's really important that as you become more aware of the truth of who you are, to make that commitment to truth, to be determined to see, because there's so much, as our last conversation talked about, what we see with our eyeballs and what we sense before our eyeballs even interpret what we see. And so for me, my work has really been based on the commitment to love and truth, and to recognize my own truth, because so much of my life, I adhered to what other people thought what other people thought was good for me, right? And if so-and-so was doing it, then it must be good because I looked up to so-and-so, or so-and-so seemed to have their life together, or appeared to look a certain way. And so I was very much a follower, and really did not rely on my own wisdom. And as a mastery coach, it is my duty to rely on my own wisdom and to teach others the way to rely on their own wisdom, so that we're less manipulatable, impressionable, abusable, seducible, etc., etc.
Powerful. That's powerfully stated. And as we were discussing earlier, I think it was probably a very rare parent in the 70s who were raising their children to be self-empowered, standing in their sovereignty, because as we were saying, it's so much easier when you have a follower child. You can put it on autopilot, set it and forget it, and they follow orders. And especially if you have multiple children, it's so much easier. You don't really have to go into any of your own dysfunction. You don't have to really, it's just kind of like, it's almost like a military thing. I am the general. You do not question me. I don't care what you're feeling, thinking. I don't care what your truth is. Don't even really want to hear it. I think a lot of us probably grew up in households like that in the 70s. There was a lot of turmoil in the 70s, and also, consecutive decades as well, for sure. But now we're seeing, I feel like a resurgence, or maybe a full circle of, hey, let's raise our children. Like you said in the last video, it was so powerful. Why don't we teach our children what it feels like to be grateful, and let them understand that feeling. And so they can be inspired to say thank you instead of saying say thank you all the time, right?
Let's get rid of the family script. You know, I hear a lot of people from many generations saying, you know, that their messaging from their family with, this is how we do it in our family, right? We don't entertain that in our family. Don't watch that in our family. We do this is the right way to do it. And that begins very young.
Yeah. And it's very important to, I don't think we can overstate this fact is, you know, I always like to, or not always, but I like to bring it back to an astrological perspective. We knew that 2020, because of the aspects that are in play in 2020, we knew that the paradigm associated with the patriarchy, with the religious structures, with the government, we knew that the banking system, the education system, all of the patriarchal foundational structures, we knew that they were on very shaky ground. They have been for a long time. We've been seeing maybe that's not quite working for everyone. This one size fits all idea of life, you know, when you saying it even sounds so absurd to me, but we've literally subscribed to that format for so long, and we're waking up to the fact that that's really just not working, but for a very small few people. So as we have been preparing for 2020, knowing that it would be a little tumultuous with all of these aspects, it's been very interesting to see this play out, this earthquake, if you will, that has hit the structure of these things. We're rethinking, how do we do school? Do I really want to send my child to school? You know, all of these things are on the chopping block. How do we do work? Work is very different. How does the government happen? We're looking at really chopping some things away from the government. Financial system as well. So it's really been, you know, if you can keep a neutral observer perspective on this year, and you've got food on the table, you know, obviously there are many people who are in a traumatized state for a lot of different reasons. But if that is not you, and you're able to, if you're eating every day, keeping this neutral observer perspective, it's a really fascinating way to sit back and just kind of watch how all of this is playing out. And learning and seeing, you know, what is being shaken up literally needs to be shaken up. What is being restructured has to be restructured, right? It's been really fascinating to watch, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And you know, a really good practice too in this observation, to be neutral, is to suspend and refrain from giving it your opinion, and just really watching it with this sense of wonder, again, with the, like, looking and seeing how you're defining things, what you're making it mean, if it goes in this bucket or if it goes in this bucket, but really suspending that need to know where it goes first, and just paying attention to like how you're physically responding to something and not mentally responding to something.
Tuning in, hand on the heart, tuning in, take a deep breath, close your eyes if you need to. How is this landing on my body, right? Because as we walk away from these structures that are crumbling, you know, the family does it this way. This is how we do it in our family. And we've always done it this way in our family. It can be very scary to walk away from that comfort zone of this is the way we do it. So in this episode of the Clarion Call, I really feel called to illustrate and provide ideas and ways that we can walk away from that comfort, the comfort of the known, walk into the unknown with some ease and tools that will help us on that journey, and help give us some just some structure as we leave the old structure and create the new structure, right?
Yes, brilliant point, because it's really important to put a new structure in place before you tear down an old structure, because there's it's supportive. Structures are supportive. They give us orientation. So if we're going to tear one down, it's important that we have a new way of being, you know, really practice that new way of being before completely abandoning the old way of being.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's an excellent point. And one of the things another one of the things that I really love that I hear from you all the time is hanging in the tension of the unknown, and how discombobulating and disorienting that can be if we're in resistance. But if we can kind of like sit back, take that deep breath and say, I'm going to hang in the tension of this unknown, this changing dynamic, and not freak out, but just breathe into it and let it be, knowing that I'm supported, knowing that Spirit, God, Father, Mother has my back. You know, I'm sitting there supported in the most divine, beautiful way. What will it look like if I walk away from that, you know, ball and chain structure and look in the opposite direction into a new structure? What do I want instead? But being able to hang there in that tension, right? I love how you really talk about that. Can you give me a minute or two on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So hanging in the tension is really being in the unknown, the uncertainty of it all, which if none of us have had experience with that before, this year has been the year for everyone to have plenty of opportunities to hang in that tension and be in that not needing to know, just allowing yourself to experience what's happening for you, because that tension wants to be resolved, right? And tension seeks resolution. But if we're, resolving the tension with a no, resist, and, creating all kinds of stories to prove why we can resist this, and so that we can, restore ourselves back to a tensionless state. So it's really important to hang in that tension, to be in that, to refrain from making it mean something, to, and it's really helpful. For example, I worked with somebody this morning, and my client was mentioning, and I've had this myself too, about how difficult it is when you want to speak when someone else is speaking. That's tension. You want to say what you want to say because you're afraid, you may have the underlying assumption that you're going to forget what you have to say, but immediately you're separated from the other person. You're not connecting anymore. You're in your own experience, wanting to share this bit of information. You're no longer listening to what the other person is saying. So we can practice this all the time, hanging in that tension, just allowing it to permeate us and fill us with all that joy that our idea that wants to come through us has for us, and just be with it. And that's a powerful place to be. And also, when you are in reaction to what somebody's saying and you want to go into defending yourself immediately, and you want to explain all the reasons why they should not be thinking this way about you. And as soon as we do that, we're not taking in what they're saying, which is a gift to us to be able to unravel some dysfunction in us, or just without taking it personally. So hanging in the tension is a powerful tool to empower oneself to be in that unknowing, letting somebody else think something about us that we don't have to agree with.
Yes, yes. And that is what it means. Another way of looking at what it means to be present, to be in the moment, right? So the minute we go into, oh, no, I don't want her to think, or I don't, no, that's not wrong. You're not in the moment. You exit the moment and get into, either you jump into the future, oh, but what if that, this person's going to think this, or you go into the past with, oh, I've been here before. They're not hearing, I gotta tell them, no, that's not right, or whatever that might look like. It's just not the gift and the present gift of the present moment, right? Which is the only point of power that we have ever, ever, ever. Even if that means that is hanging in a moment of tension, mouth closed, ears open, both ears listening, mouth closed. It's a powerful place to be. Even if you feel tension there, right? It's still a powerful place to be.
It is the most powerful place to be.
Yeah.
And the more that you can practice it, you'll be able to allow yourself to feel all of that energy that is circulating, spiraling, moving abundantly throughout your body, and be in that, and practice not taking it personally, practice not needing to defend, practice not needing to prove your point, practice not needing to explain, and just allow the other person, giving the other person the opportunity to say what they need to say and release all that. Because as soon as I fire back, we've engaged in the conflict that either one of us individually is experiencing within ourselves. And now we're engaging in it together. Conflict, conflict, conflict. But we can resolve our own inner conflict. But we don't, until we master the way to do that, we're going to throw the conflict out. I don't want it. It's yours. Take it. Oh, here it comes back. And then we'll play ball until somebody, either resolves the conflict or, placates it, sweeps it under the rug, or has an actual functional, healthy, powerful, conscious conversation where both parties can admit their part in it and ascend beyond the conflict that ensued as a result.
Okay, beautiful. So I want to I want to set this up from a right brain, left brain perspective, because I really love that. When we are in the right brain, that is where we are creative. That is just as a recap, that's the feminine, that's the magnetic side or the magnetic format for processing information. We take it in, we give it out. We take it in, we give it out. It's a give and take. It is where we find love. It's where we find creativity. It's where we find the infinite, the divine, the expansive. Okay. So when we're in the present moment, Jessica's telling me that she thinks that carrot juice is the most incredible thing and every other kind of juice sucks. I think that celery juice is the most incredible thing and every other kind of juice sucks. Right. So when Jessica is talking about her carrot juice, instead of me going, I'm going to stay in my right brain and I'm going to be like, she is so passionate about her carrot juice. I love that about her. She really stands in her truth and she is speaking her truth. And it doesn't really matter if I agree with her or not. Of course I know that celery juice is the best, but look at how eloquently she speaks about carrot juice. I mean, I think I might be falling in love with carrot juice. Okay. That is a right brain response to Jessica's opinion about carrot juice. When I jump into if I do anything else other than that, then I jump into the left brain and I'm like, oh dear God, how could she be like, what? Who thinks carrot juice is the best juice? It's the craziest thing in the world. I'm not connecting with her now. I'm in my left brain of analytical, critical. I'm going into criticism. I'm going into all the ways that she's wrong. I'm referencing my file cabinet of where I put all the data and examples of why carrot juice sucks, like okay, I can say this and then right? So is that a nice little fun illustration?
Absolutely. That's how it works. We have a strong desire and a need to be right, and often need to make the other wrong in order to feel right.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I want to segue from that. Now that we've kind of set that up and laid that out, I want to segue over to the messaging, right? Mm-hmm. So if Jessica comes to me and she's like, I really need you to reconsider about celery juice. I mean, how stupid is that idea? I really think that it's important for you to understand that carrot juice is the only way to go. I really need you to just forget about celery juice. It's so yesterday. Nobody is drinking celery juice anymore. I mean, it's even so bad as people are going to laugh at you for drinking celery juice. It's just, it's absurd. I really need you to think more about carrot juice. That's messaging. And we hear messaging all the time, especially when we dip into social media. We dip into if you have a television and you turn that on, especially if you're hearing the news or a television program or a commercial, advertising is there's always a message. There might be 12 messages. One message might hit your conscious mind. Another message might hit your subconscious brain. Visuals and symbolism work on the subconscious mind, which is back here. It bypasses your logical brain. There's no barrier to it. No matter how woke you are, that subconscious messaging is always happening. So I want to talk about a few examples of what we are about to see these days that are going to be coming at you from a television, brought to you by a television near you, that are going to try to convince you to do something, right? So Jess and I thought it would be really fun to look at these messaging ideas and see how they hit your core belief and convince you to do something. Celery juice bad, carrot juice good, okay? So this messaging, and back to Sasha Stone, be aware of the conjuring trick that invites you out of your truth. So the whole purpose here of this discussion that we're having today is really looking at all the ways that we can stay in our truth, not be knocked out of our truth by messaging, okay? So just give me, let's give our viewers a little run through of what the core beliefs are, how we are, just give us, just the foundation of what are the core beliefs and what does that mean to us? Why should I care about what core beliefs are?
It's important to understand what the core beliefs are because they're the agreements that you made from the moment that you entered into the womb of your mother and the way that you interpreted energetically until you could interpret what words people were saying, the looks they were giving you, and the structure they were creating for the environment that you were in from that entry into the womb until you're about between 5 and 7 years old. So all the agreements, this is the way the world is. This is, when my mother does this, this is how I receive love. This is what I need to do in order to receive love. This is how I need to behave in order to get what I want. We learn how to operate within the structure of our environment. It's the way we orient ourselves. It is our orientation. And those things are set, right? That's our orientation that we go off into the world with. And then we, have people that have orientations that are similar and we tend to vibe with those people and we can stay in our dysfunction with them. And it's very powerful how like-minded we can be in our dysfunction, right? Because all relationships start in a dysfunctional orientation because we're always coming with our dysfunction until we become aware of it by knowing what these core beliefs are and when they rear their head in the way that we're responding to our environment. Okay. So for example, relationships starting in dysfunction, we're putting our mask on, we're putting our best self forward. We're only showing them love and light because we don't meet somebody and say, I have these terrible habits that I have. Not, some people are starting to do that now, which is like awesome. But we don't normally, put our worst foot forward and talk about our shadow and the way that we mess things up and the choices that we've made that we continue to make. So that's what I mean about that. It's like what is it? It's mutual. That's how that mutuality. And so that's the way we orient in those formative years. And then we go into the individuation stage and then we bring that out into the world and everything that comes into our experience is filtered through that orientation.
Great. Okay. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so to put this in a more mundane example of this would be so we're talking about the operating system that a computer would run on. So basically when you open up your computer and you open up WordPerfect, and that you strike the J key, you're going to get a lowercase j until you hit the shift button, then you'll get an uppercase J, but that's the way it is, right? Would that be a good metaphor for what you're speaking about?
Yes, it's very, yeah, there's, when this happens, we have this cause and effect kind of, yeah,
Yes, yes,
brilliant.
yes, yes. When you hit delete, it's going to delete what you just wrote on the computer. It's a very, it's set until we rewrite it, right? It always can be rewritten at any time. That's what doing the work is, and becoming a master of yourself. Not to make it sound like it's that easy, but it's always possible, right?
Yeah, you take the power out of it. So it's reclaiming your power from these agreements that you made when you didn't know better, right? You got what you got, and it was part of your experience. And now when you start to say, oh, is that really true? Do I really, really believe this? Till you start to question your reality and question your belief system.
Okay. And would you say that most people, so when we talk, and I've done work with you on core beliefs, and when we talk about the core beliefs, you say one belief is XYZ, and that it kind of translates as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and most people will fall on a scale of 0 to 10. Some people really resonate with that core belief. Others, and that would be a 10, like, oh my gosh, I've got that 100%. Other people would say, yeah, that one's really, I don't really identify with that at all. So that's really not running the show here, right? So that's a good, just like a scalable, I mean, not scalable, but that's the system.
Yeah, you typically have between 4 and 5 that are predominant, that have more of your power than the others. We typically all have all of them, but some of them, about a third of them, are going to be more predominant and take more of your personal power away.
Fabulous. Okay, great. Now I want to move on to the messaging. And it became aware to me, I became aware of the fact that Yale University is doing a study. I'm not sure how big the study is, how many people are in this study. I would imagine it's significant, but it's all about messaging. What message are people, the public, the American public, going to be the most susceptible to? And you'll see why I use the word susceptible in a moment. So this is about this is a way to sell the COVID-19 vaccine. So they've got their experiment group, and they have divided these people into 15 different groups or arms. They label each one, and they give a message that would translate to basically I guess it could be a commercial on television, or a message that the press is given to disseminate and fill up the airwaves with. What is the message that folks in the USA are going to be the most are going to identify with the most? Let me put it that way. So what we decided would be a really fun exercise. I'm going to read off one of these messages. Again, there are 15. One of them is a very, it's like the control, which that's really not very interesting. So we won't read that one off, but I want to start with, you think embarrassment, Jess?
Sure, let's go,
Yeah, embarrassment. Okay. Okay. So it's called the embarrassment message. 1/15, and I'm reading straight from the government website. So this is a very, I'm going straight to the source here, and I will link the source so that you can go and check it out for yourself. 1/15 of the sample will be assigned to this message. The message is about the danger that COVID-19 presents to the health of one's family and community. The best way to protect them is by getting vaccinated and by working together to make sure that enough people get vaccinated. Then it asks the participant to imagine the embarrassment they will feel if they don't get vaccinated and spread the disease. Okay, so imagine that you are in this experiment, you are in the room with the embarrassment message. So I imagine, I've never experienced this, but I've read enough about clinical trials, and I imagine that the way that this will go is something like this. they will have this discussion, or they will show them perhaps a commercial, an already done commercial that will have this. It will be an overt message. It will be an obvious message, but it more than likely will not have happy, bright music. It might be some, you'll probably hear some violins and some, a little bit of a tragic undertone to the frequency that you're getting. And then this message will come across. Imagine how you will feel, the embarrassment that you will feel if you don't get this vaccine. Okay, so Jess, let's talk about, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I want you to just give us give me your thoughts on that type of message from a self-mastery, self-empowered perspective. And what does that mean as far as what does it hit on the core beliefs?
Immediately what I got was a not belonging belief. Like, if I want to belong, then I need to get this, I need to do this, because and also I want to avoid feeling embarrassed. I don't like to feel embarrassed. That makes me feel, I get scared when I think about being embarrassed. I think about all the times that I've been embarrassed in my life, and how I felt like I don't belong to a certain group. I feel left out if I'm embarrassed, that people are going to laugh at me and make fun of me, and I don't know who to be in the face. Like that, that's the last thing I want to happen, is to be embarrassed, because I get very scared when I'm embarrassed. So I'm going to go into avoiding. I want to avoid being embarrassed. So obviously I need to do this thing, whatever this thing is. If somebody's telling me, that I'm going to be embarrassed, then I want to avoid being embarrassed. So I'll do what they're asking, because embarrassment is a really hard thing for me to deal with, for someone who struggles with, their past or things that they've done in their life that they're not owning or taking full acceptance for or okay with. Yeah. It's taking you out of your creative power. It's taking you out of being the predominant creative force in your life. It's not giving you a whole lot of room to tune in and say, is this true for me? And if you are avoiding getting embarrassed, you're going to be looking, right? You're going to be focusing on all the ways that you can avoid being embarrassed. And here's one coming right to me. So I'm going to connect with that message.
Yeah, brilliant. And so, okay, so that would be so the person that's got that, a healthy dose of that core belief, I don't want to belong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you were a person that doesn't identify with that core belief at all, mm-hmm. How does that message land on you? It really doesn't, does it?
Well, there's other ones that can come into play. Like, if I don't trust myself, right? Mm-hmm. Another belief is I don't trust myself, others of the world, then they're going to be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't trust myself to make a good decision. I don't like being embarrassed, but there's not a whole lot of things I'm embarrassed about, but I still am like, who am I to put my family in danger? I don't know if I can trust myself to not put my family in danger or my community. So I might be led to buy into that messaging as well, from I don't trust myself belief.
Okay, right. And then for the person that doesn't have that's pretty self-actualized, or I don't even know if that's the PC term these days, but let's say the person who isn't susceptible to messaging at all, what would you imagine that person would feel about that message?
I would imagine that I would see people defining that message as manipulative, as playing on people's emotions, on hitting them where they're weak, targeting their weakness, and very much coercing coercing someone into doing something, and playing on their weakness and vulnerability and susceptibility to being impressionable.
Right. So overall, not really a very honest way of communicating.
Yeah, to put it lightly. Not a very clear, straightforward, clean talk way of presenting an option for the individual sovereign beings that we are.
Right. Not honoring a person's intelligence level really at all, that they could actually make their own decision. And we, you know, let's be real. I don't know that anybody at this point in the timeline expects honesty from advertising. You know, we know what advertising is, what the foundation of advertising is. And so this might seem like a redundant point that I'm making here, but I think it's really important to really kind of stop, drop, and roll away from this, this bandwagon, especially when it comes to shooting things up into your arm. So in any medical way, we really don't need to be coerced into something that hits an emotional level, because what happens, again, we've talked about this before, what happens when when your emotions are triggered. We all love that word, triggered, everyone's triggered. When our emotions are triggered, then we go immediately into this fight or flight situation. And guess what does not happen? We're not in our logical brain going, is this what's best for me? We're not in the right brain going, hey, what is the best thing for me? We get into, it's a trauma. It's a trauma hit. It's a hit to the trauma cycle. And we are very susceptible to making decisions that are against our best interests, right? So that might seem obvious, but let's make it a little bit more obvious. What if we distill this even further and say, okay, Sally's husband has been beating her for a while. He's manipulative and controlling, in the way his behavior is manipulative and controlling. Sally has the choice to walk out the door at any moment. She has free will, and still, if he is using this type of messaging, you are making me do this. You do not want to leave, because how embarrassed would you feel if the whole town knew that you make me beat you, or some such nonsense like that. But when we look at it from a different angle, how messaging works, how manipulators and bulliers and that type of behavior controls, or help me out, Jessica, how would you put that? We know,
well,
you know,
it's one-sided. It's taking one person's perspective into consideration, one person's need. It's not this, you know, Sally's husband isn't considering what's good for Sally. He's considering what's good for him. And he is going to say whatever he can say and do whatever he can do to convince Sally that leaving him is not a good idea, and enroll her in staying, because if she did leave, how all the things that would go wrong for her would, you know, all those things, being embarrassed, she would be embarrassed. Maybe Sally is like, you know, maybe she's a marriage counselor, and maybe Sally's husband is like, what kind of marriage counselor would you be if you divorced your husband? I mean, the ridiculousness of that, Sally, you can't leave, you know, and it's all your fault anyway. Mm-hmm. Very one-sided messaging that is in favor of one person getting what they want, not considering what's good for the other or even the whole collective. It's my agenda.
Yes. Okay. So, thank you for bringing in that word, agenda, because that's what this is really all about. There is one side that has an agenda, whatever that may be. That agenda could be, I really want you to buy my product. I really want you to choose, you know, McDonald's over Hardee's or whatever. That's a terrible example, because I don't eat that stuff, but it's propaganda. It is advertising. It is coercion. It is come over to my side. Everything else is bonk. Carrot juice is the only way to go. Celery juice is ridiculous, right? So it is about an agenda. So the purpose of breaking all this down today is to say, hey guys, let's have some awareness, or sharpen our awareness around this idea that not all messaging is in your best interest. There is an agenda involved in literally everything that comes across the television screen, whether it is a commercial or your regularly scheduled program, you know, whatever it may be. It's entertainment with a purpose. It's entertainment with an agenda. And so becoming aware of what that, you don't even really need to know what the agenda is. It really doesn't matter. The most important thing to understand, though, to understand, is that there is an agenda, and to feel, what does that feel like? So Jess, let's switch back over to, again, just kind of recap. It's a stop, drop, and roll moment, right? So what are the red flags for you? How can, for the person who has never really considered this, these agendas or this messaging, if they're hearing this for the first time, let's bring it back to, what is the solution? How do we become more aware when an agenda is, like, you know, barreling towards us, and we feel like we're tied to the train tracks, and there's a locomotive, you know, coming right at us. What do we do? How do we see that?
Well, it's important to pause and to really ask yourself, is this the best thing for me? And, you know, there's probably some steps to get there, you know, to do before you get there, because some people aren't aware, and their main goal in life is to survive this experience. And if there's danger or threat of danger, you know, they're going to do whatever they need to do to stay alive and to be compliant and do the right thing and what's expected of them. So it's really important to, whatever you're being offered, and there's no right or wrong, it's whatever you're being offered, to have a practice of tapping in to your own truth, because you have a detector in there. And the more that you know, dialogue with it and connect with it and dwell within the space of it, that's your intuition, that's your guidance system that knows what's best for you, not what someone outside of you is telling you. Like, relying upon your own authority, your own wisdom with everything. The more you choose in favor of what's true with you, true for you, the more your life is going to open up and give you evidence of more things that bring you joy and support you in your well-being. And, you know, and in truth and love, committing to that, committing to be willing to see, determined to see. Because until you're determined to see, you are subject to seeing things through your own conditioning. And there are people, maybe in your midst, certainly in, you know, in these institutions and industries, that have an agenda to have you buy their product, regardless of what it is. It can be a car, the right attorney. And it's important to notice that it's always going to generate fear, because fear, once we go into fear, we are controllable, because we're in avoidance. We're already in reaction when we're in fear. We're no longer in the state of love. We're no longer tuned in to our highest self, to our sovereign being. And we are going to be more easily influenced. So noticing, where are you when you're making your choice? Are you in fear? Are you avoiding something you don't want to happen? Or are you in your truth, in your state of being, which is love, which we go in and out of that state. We go in and out of fear. But when you're making choices for yourself and what's good for you, it's really important that you do whatever you need to do. Ask for help if you need it, but to get yourself into that state of love, so that you're making a decision from your higher mind, from your intuitive, connected space. And there's a, you know, certain resonance, a certain vibration, there's a feeling, you know. Human design is a real big thing right now, big movement. And, you know, for me, like I'm a generator, and to my understanding and what I've been told and have read about, it's like for my type, I get a really clear or and I think that we all have that. It's just, how does it show up for you? Is it a voice? Is it a feeling? Do you feel contracted? Is that your no? Is the expansive your yes? Is there some sort of flutter that happens in your chest when you know that this is true for you? Or is it a pit in your stomach that happens? So it's really important to know yourself enough to begin to tune in and make a choice not to avoid something, because the underlying assumption here is you're going to die. And if you're in that part of your brain that is fight or flight, it's like, I don't want to die. I do this so I don't die. Period. End of story. Final. Sign me up, coach. Where's the clinic or the product that I need to have so that I don't die or be embarrassed or all the things.
Amazing. Wow. You just said so much there. I mean, guys, you just got $12,000 worth of self-mastery coaching right there. Those are some really wonderful, wonderful words, wonderful concepts. And that's your ticket to empowerment. Really, what Jessica just said, it is so important, because this has been a year of potentially fear-inducing issues, events, situations, and it just seems to kind of be getting increasingly, well, they just don't stop coming, do they? We've got wildfires and hurricanes and things kind of coming at us from all sides. And if we go unconscious, it's very easy to make decisions out of a fearful position. So it's just vital, I think, this year to just stop, drop, and roll away from that anxiety in the moment. If you are in danger, I'm not talking about those. We are not talking about in imminent danger times. We're talking about when a message is coming across to you and you begin to feel that fear, let that be a red flag. Something is not stirring the Kool-Aid. I'm going to stop, hand on the heart, think, breathe what is best for me, and make a slow, non-reactive, concise, well thought out, unemotional decision about what sometimes, there are lots of things that we are going to be asked to decide on coming up. And so when you hear things that are absolute and definite, the best way to protect them is by, that's a perspective. That is an opinion. I would love to hear people talking more about how to protect the immune system. We are divine products of God. We are created perfect. We run perfectly when given the proper sustenance, nutrition, clean air, clean water, clean food, proper amounts of this, that, and the other. And so begin to just kind of step back and say, wait, is that actually the truth? Is that true for me? And knowing, and I see this all over the place. I see so many folks waking up to, yeah, that might be what this governmental agency or this vaccine company is saying, but is that actually true? Or is that the truth that they need me to know so that I will buy into their messaging? So Jess, I can't thank you enough. This has just been incredible. And I think such a powerful invitation to stand in your truth and to not be pulled and have your chain be just yanked off into a direction that does not serve you. So thank you. Any final thoughts or suggestions or ideas, or just anything that you would like to close on here?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I would just invite everyone who's watching to practice tuning into what's true for you. And again, knowing there's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. It's what's true for you. And it can be, you know, do I want sparkling or still water, right? Maybe not a big deal, but a great opportunity to practice and see, well, what does my body want? And act in favor of that. It's very important that we realize that we're always choosing. We're always choosing. And the more conscious we can be when we're choosing, the more evidence of a life that is lovely, that will be able to experience more abundance, more freedom, more pleasure, and to stop denying ourselves. You know, we're here. Let's experience it in the truest way possible for us, and have faith that we have the answers within us, and that we can practice a way to create that, to observe and discern and recognize when it's a yes and when it's a no, and maybe even when it's a not yet, I need more information.
Oh, that's so brilliant. And thank you for bringing in the sparkling or still. I think that's such a fabulous example, because we all, I wrote this into my curriculum a few years ago. If you are if you're watching and you're thinking, I don't know how to do that, I just don't do that, that's not my way. It's everybody's way. You just don't realize it. So when we think about, okay, if I say to you, all right, let's get together tomorrow night. We're going to do dinner. What do you prefer? What would you rather have, a Chinese or Italian? You ask yourself that question, or you hear that question, you tune in, whether you call it that or not, that's what you do. Every time you think about what you want to eat, you're tuning in. What do I feel like? You get an answer. We take that for granted because that's part of our daily process and we do it all the time. That doesn't seem like magic, but it actually is. That is the process that Jess is talking about. And whether you're aware of it or not, you do it all the time, right?
And if you're one of the people that says, oh, I don't care, I'll have whatever you're having, take a look at yourself. Because if you're not honoring what's true for you, even as simple as a dinner, or what time, or which movie, or if you want to go to the beach or the mountains, or if you don't have a preference in the color of the room that you live in, you know, really look at how often are you forsaking yourself and not honoring what your body wants to experience, because you want to be easy, you want to follow the script and say the right thing rather than the true thing.
Oh, I mean, amazing, amazing. Thank you for bringing that in, because that's really valuable. And I would also add, question number 2 is, do you have any resentment in your life? And that's kind of the clear indication, right? That maybe that's not really working for you, right?
Absolutely, because you know, this could be a whole nother talk, but when you're acquiescing more frequently than you're not acquiescing, then there's an imbalance, and we all go into our dysfunction when we're imbalanced. When we're not balanced, we all have a tendency to slip right into our dysfunctioning, right into our conditioning, giving all of our power to those core beliefs, because there's an imbalance when we're not honoring what's true. And we're going to use that as an excuse to blame everyone around us for our state of being, when it's truly because of the choices we're making in every moment. It's always a choice. Even when we choose not to choose, we're choosing.
Amazing. That's just wonderful. I'll bring it to a close on that note. Thank you, Jessica. Again, this has just been very empowering for me, and I'm sure that there are many people who will become more aware of the choices that they're making from listening to your words of wisdom. So again, Jessica Rueger, self-mastery coach. You can find her at jessicarueger.com. Is that right, Jess?
Yeah, that's right. You can put that in the link too if you want to, along with this Yale study for people if they're interested in digging in more.
Will do, will do. Thank you again, and everybody, thanks. Have a wonderful day. Let us know if you like this video. We would appreciate it so much, and give us some comments, and we will get back to you. So have a wonderful day, and we'll be back with more videos soon. Thanks again, Jess.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Jen.
See you. Bye.